go. Okay, so you should be able to see my shared screen now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So sure, I'll just open up my project here. And when you first load it, I kind of give an explanation of what's about to happen when you load the models. And as said in like this brief little overview, I used Next.js, which is actually like a create React app starter boilerplate to kind of boilerplate the code. And then the animations that you see are using GSAP, which is also known as GreenSock, if you haven't heard of that library before. And yeah, the individual models that you'll see when it loads the scene are actually separated like this between the individual flowers, the grass chunks, and then this little rabbit. And so I took those individual models and then placed them in the scene like such. And the bottom brown part is actually just a plane that looks like this. It's just one or two-dimensional. And then I used all the coordinates for X, Y, Z to place where I wanted these flowers and the bunny. And what's happening when you click on a flower and it kind of animates back and forth like that is that the browser's listening for click events, and I am listening for specific objects. So I labeled these particular flower models with a property that when you click the browser, it's checking to see if that property is there. And if it is, then it uses that GSAP animation library to kind of bobble the model back and forth on its Z-axis. And yeah, that's like the basics of it. And the one thing I think is unique or kind of cool is that when you click a particular one, so there's like an additional property on this flower model, it hits play for the rabbit animation, and that animating running was actually built into the model when I downloaded it. So all you have to do is actually tell it to play or pause. And yeah, so I actually, just a little bit about myself too, I've built some 3D websites like this before, but mainly just using like cubes and spheres and not models that you found online. So I think that this opportunity gave me a really good chance to look specifically for models that I could open and then edit to make sure that they load in this ratio to the scene. So for instance, this rabbit model is kind of like a 1x1 unit. But when I downloaded the model, it was more like 100x100. So it would load very large in your browser, and that takes a lot of memory. So I used a free program called Blender to edit the model and size it down so that when somebody visits the website, their computer's not just overwhelmed by trying to scale all these models correctly. But yeah, I'd be happy to answer any questions too about it.
This is super cool, Delilah. I absolutely love this project so much. And the fact that you can interact with the different components on the map are just, actually didn't know that the first time I landed on your page. I was just kind of moving the plane around, and then I landed on it again with someone on my team. And then we kind of, I think accidentally, and that's a user fault. I didn't read your landing page. So yeah, there's a cool musical element to this page as well. Um, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your background as well. We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, definitely. I actually do work as a web developer right now for the Adler Planetarium in Chicago. And I did graduate from a boot camp though less than 2 years ago. So I'm fairly early in my journey as a web dev. So before attending that boot camp to transition my career, I was a scientist doing work on the Great Lakes and freshwater. So I kind of, now that I have this job as a web developer at the Adler Planetarium, it's like a marriage of my science background and then going to boot camp to learn web dev. And I'm enjoying it a lot. It's only been a month since I started that position, but it does give me some time still to do really fun projects like the challenges that you guys do for hackathons.
That's awesome that you're able to like blend your two backgrounds and interests into one job. That's like a dream thing.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so what was the most difficult part of this challenge for you?
I think that I already was able to get the website itself up and running fairly easily since I'd done that before just for like simple 3JS objects. But looking into how to edit the models, not coming from a design background, was pretty difficult. So it's like, I think I understood the math of where you want to place something in a 3JS app using X, Y, and Z axes. But when it comes to opening up a model editor like Blender, I was kind of like, oh no, there's all these controls. Like I need to do some quick learning in order to be able to use these models in a website. So It was challenging, but I'm glad that I did, so that going forward, if I ever see something cool online, like a free model, then I would feel confident using it in an app.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give an opportunity to everyone to see if anyone else had a question so far.
Not a question, but just a comment that the scene itself with bunnies running around and the music is out there in the background just gives me so much happiness. And I think I left a comment from me being at in your post that it just a serotonin boost, you know.
Good. I'm glad.
How did you find working with the browser and also 3D models? I know I'm actually from like an animation background where we use 3D models a lot. And I've always been kind of impressed, like astounded as to how people can like get high poly, like models with a lot of detail to like render them in the browser.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult balance between finding, like you said, that detail, and then also getting your computer to render it without crashing. I don't know if it registers through Zoom, but my CPU is really, like the fan is really high right now because I'm running Zoom and the website. So I found that when you use 3D models, that's definitely a problem you run into.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah, it's just a matter of trying to balance that and also test on different devices to see how they react. So I would run the project locally on my computer and then also open it up on my mobile phone too to see if the browsers there would work as well. And it's also interesting to learn about. I can show just a little bit of code if you're curious too. So 3JS has this thing called the raycaster here. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. Where you set up event listeners so that it's tracking the vector between your mouse and where it's hitting your web page. And so this is the registered event listener for clicking on a flower, and then the handle click function runs. But in some browsers, it doesn't always work exactly as you'd expect. So for instance, it works really well on desktop, but if you open this site in mobile Safari, there's something a little bit off. And I'm not sure if it's about like the tabs that Safari opens automatically on your mobile device, but it's like the coordinates are just a little bit off. And so I think dealing with a raycaster in models is also something interesting.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like another level on top of what I ever had to deal with, because I would just be like, they assume that you have a powerhouse computer and you're just like rendering it all on your graphics card on like local programs. So yeah, just like tiny applause for getting this to work. And I'm sure it works a lot like smoother when you're not, yeah, exactly, like doing Zoom at the same time. One time I opened Illustrator while on a call with our CEO, and then it completely crashed because I was on Zoom at the same time, and I just had to end the call. Like,
Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
We just had someone who won last week's hackathon jump in and then jump out, and I really wanted his take on it, but Zoom life. This is an amazing, amazing accomplishment, Delilah. This is a difficult project. This was not easy. So, you know, all the different components that you've done. Yeah, a clap for me as well. This was awesome. I loved it.
But yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity. I had a lot of fun like learning different things.
Nice. Was this something that you did by yourself?
Yeah, it was by myself.
Nice. Awesome. All right, that's demo day. It's really simple. We love giving kudos to everyone who participates, and like honestly, finishing a project is an accomplishment on its own. There's, you know, we start off with a number of participants, and then like that pool just gets like narrow and narrow as the projects end up going to submissions, and it's a testament to everyone who ends up submitting these projects, like how difficult these hack weeks are and how much, you know, you could as a developer accomplish in a week. So yeah, massive kudos to finishing this and finishing it with a bang.
Mm-hmm.